Song for a Whale, Chapter 47. I opened a chat window and found Wendell online. Guess what? I typed. You hitched a ride on an African safari and you've befriended a cheetah? Close, I answered. I'm going to Bridgewood next year. Wow, really? That's awesome. So you finally talked to your mom? Yeah, she still doesn't like the idea, but she said okay. I'm going to be nervous, though. I'll hardly know anyone. Yeah, unlike where you are now, most popular student, class president, and all of that. I sat back and laughed. If Wendell were there, I'd throw a pillow at his head. So, how grounded are you? He asked. Forever. See if your parents will let you stop by sometime, he added. My mom said I could invite you over for dinner to welcome you home. I think she was worried while you were gone, so she wants to see you too. Okay, I'll try. Any cool planet sightings or eclipses to see? Not this week. But I'm pretty cool, so you should come over anyway. Good enough. I'll stop by whenever my parents let me out of their sight. I was elbow deep in a radio when Tristan came in. Ready to go? Almost, I signed with leather gloves still on. Really, the radio would take a lot more time and some parts I didn't have yet. I'd take it back to Mr. Gunner after fixing it. Probably. Tristan helped me straighten up my workbench and put things away. I let him, even though he didn't know where to put everything. He set the radio on an empty spot on a high shelf I pointed out for him. The repair would wait for another day. Time to take Grandma to the beach. Grandma and I walked the dunes to pick wildflowers for the grave of Iris the sei whale. I filled her in on how Blue 55 was doing. His tracker app showed he was still hanging around the sanctuary, though he'd swim away sometimes and return later. Andy had forwarded a recording of the song I made to the staff there and talked to the acoustic biologist about how interesting it would be to find out how Blue 55 responded to it. Through an underwater speaker in the bay, they played his song sometimes. Other sanctuaries along his route would do the same. When he swam in their waters, an update on the Lighthouse Bay website said that he visited all the sea pens. Sometimes he and Mara swam together. How long would he stay? Would he return to the sanctuary every year? It was impossible to know, but it'd be fun to find out what happened. Grandma squeezed my hand. You did a good thing. Thank you so much for going on the adventure with me. It was exactly what I needed. Even though Grandpa wasn't around to enjoy it, I feel like he's with me again. I think when I was that sad, there wasn't any room for him. Now there is. Then she told me about her new home. What? I replied. A cruise ship full time? How? I didn't know people could do that. Apparently, been looking into it. Not many people live on cruise ships year round, but it was possible. You saw how happy I was. I'll be at sea all the time. It doesn't cost much more than Oak Manor. It's just for a year. Then I'll decide what to do. A year? So many days without Grandma around. Do you know my favorite quote from Moby Dick? She asked. It's not the one about the drizzly November and the soul, though I like that one too. It is not down on any map. True places never are. We were traveled together. Where we travel together isn't on any map, and I'll get to keep it with me all the time. The wildflowers we left on the whale's grave rolled across the sand when a gust of wind blew. I rearranged them and stuck the stems into the sand while I thought about what to say. Grandma couldn't leave. Yes, she'd been really happy on the cruise, but a whole year away from us? She tapped me so I'd look at her again. And this way your mother won't worry about me wandering off. Not not far to go on a ship. Is this because of what I said in Skagway? I asked. About living on a ship if you had a big win at the casino? You know I was kidding, right? She nodded. I know. But after what I've done, how could I stay? Think about what it'll be like. She held up a hand, two fingers pointed at her own face. I lifted my hands to argue with her, then let let them drop to the sand. She was right. They'd never take their eyes off her. A few days later, an envelope from Bernie arrived in the mail. She emailed to ask how I was doing and to get my home address so she could send me something. Inside the envelope were some photos of the cruise. One was Benny and me sitting on deck together in a photo I hadn't noticed the photographer taking. I looked happy. Then another that was taken from the deck below, I was myself, looking out over the water. I'd probably been wondering where 55 was and if I'd find him. I'd given Grandma the picture of the two of us from our first day on the cruise. She could keep it with her while she sailed to wherever she'd be during the next year. The last picture was of Grandma performing in the karaoke bar. I tacked it to my wall. Whenever I felt sad about Grandma being away, the photo would remind me that she was where she needed to be, not a place on any map.